welcome back to another exciting and thrill-filled adventure with DIY Nautical Dream. Okay, maybe that was a little over the top. Anyways, we'll go ahead and get our next video started. Hi, I'm Rich.
I'm Priscilla.
And together we're DIY Nautical Dream.
Welcome back to another episode of DIY Nautical Dream.
I'm Rich.
I'm Priscilla.
And together we make DIY Nautical Dream.
So this episode we will talk about the boat, the Trans-Pacific 49 1980.
Here's a cutaway view of the 1980 Transpac 49, just for reference.
This boat he went to look at when I was in Philippines.
Yeah.
I was on my vacation.
Right.
So I'm just trying to help him introduce this boat, but I'm gonna have him talk what he thinks about this boat.
Okay. My violence.
No, you're speechless.
No, I'm good. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So this, like she said, she was out of town on vacation, so my dad and I went to review this boat. And so it was located in Seattle, Washington, which made it really convenient to go see it and view it. First impressions walking up to it on the outside at the dock looked pretty nice. It was styled, the hull shape and all that. It fit the kind of look we were looking for. As you can see from the outside, it's a pretty attractive looking boat. It's a ketch rig, meaning it has two masts, and it has a very high bow, which is good for open water, blue water sailing. Keeps the spray off the center cockpit area, and it also has a pilot house style cockpit area where the crew is protected from any kind of weather or heavy seas. So we went ahead and got on board, and one of the first things we noticed that half of the Teak deck was replaced and about the back half of it was not replaced. So here's an example. The forward deck portion has already had the Teak decks removed, and any damage looks like it's been repaired. And then heading aft, you can see the Teak deck starts again, and the full back half is fully teaked and looks weathered, aging, but it's probably still in okay condition. But it would have been helpful if they had cleaned it up and restored the Teak's color. And so that will lead to things we'll discover later on once we get down below decks. But that's always kind of a, when you see a boat that originally had Teak decks and part of it's been replaced, part of it wasn't, or all of it was replaced, there's usually a reason why that happened, and this proved to be true as well. We walked around on deck for a little while, looked around. It looked pretty nice. It's an attractive looking boat for sure. I also noticed that the dinghy davits in the back, the one on the left hand side was bent, like it was hit or impacted by something. It still was supporting a dinghy on the back, but you could tell that its integrity is compromised, so it's no longer as strong as it once was, once it's been bent. Here you can see the dinghy davit where it's bent. You look up at the upper portion of the arm where the angle is at on it, and it has a couple of creases in it. And I checked the other side just to be sure, and yeah, the other side's fine. It doesn't have those creases in it, so it's obviously struck something at some point, or they used it to lift something heavy at one time. And it was a pretty significant bend as well. So anyways, went ahead, walked in, got down the companionway, got inside, and the first thing we noticed was it has a really nice U-shaped galley, which is that's one of the things that you like the U-shaped galleys. And so that was a big plus. That was really nice. Here's a view of the U-shaped galley that's down below. As you come down the companionway stairs, you'll see the galley off to your left. And yeah, it's nice, cozy, compact. Everything's right where you need it within arm's reach, so that's very convenient for when you're down in the galley during like heavy seas or whatever, trying to prepare a meal. Everything's within reach, and there's lots of handhold areas in there. Kind of tight, a little snug. You'd definitely be only room for one person in there, but it's all right. It would have worked for what we're looking for. And throughout the boat, I noticed just lots of beautiful woodwork inside. which is always a big plus. We like a lot of wood on the inside of the boat that we're looking at. So that was nice. Going to the aft cabin, one of the first things that I noticed was it had the 3 windows in the transom, which is something we really like. One of the first things we noticed when we were entering the aft cabin area was it had the 3 windows in the transom, which is really cool. That's one of the things Baby and I really like and are really looking for in our next boat. But yeah, it's cramped quarters back there. It's not a big, roomy aft cabin. Lots of beautiful woodwork throughout the aft cabin area, but very cramped. The back cabin was a little on the small side. The floors sloped up as you went farther aft, so your foot space on the floor became smaller and smaller as you went farther and farther aft, which, you know, it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those things that... Here you can see where the floor is sloping up as you walk towards the aft end of the cabin there. It just starts to tilt up, and it does that on both sides, so you start to lose foot space pretty quick walking back there. I noticed it right away walking in. And then the bed as well. The bed's a steamroll bed, and yeah, we're not a fan of that. So here's the example of the steamroll bed. You have to lay across the width of the hull side by side, and so the person that's closest to the back windows there is going to have to crawl across the person towards the front side of the bed. That's what we call a steamroll bed. You're just going to have to roll across or step across. It's awkward, especially if the other person's still sleeping and is not ready to get up yet. But, you know, we could have worked around that. That just was one of the things that I noticed right away walking in. And it also had 2 heads on the boat, so that was nice. It had several areas for sleeping. It had a V-berth up front. Here's the forward V-berth area up front. This is up in the bow of the boat. And you can see there's 2 beds, one across from each other. Sometimes in the V-berth they'll have a center cushion that they can put in there that makes it all into one bed, but I did not see that on this boat. But yeah, again, look at all the woodwork. It's very beautiful. And then it also had a side quarter berth area along the side where 2 people, they were like bunks where 2 people could sleep there, which was nice. Here's the quarter berth that we're talking about. They just look like bunk beds, but 2 adults could sleep in those, and they're pretty well laid out. They actually even have a sink wash basin at the end. And even in the main salon, you can look at the main settee area there. Behind it is also like a day berth for, you know, when you're doing off-shift sailing. There was several areas in the boat where there's water damage, extensive water damage, and you can tell that's coming from why they decided to replace the teak decks up top. And some of these areas where the water damage is kind of questionable. How deep does it go? It's over a bulkhead in some areas, and usually if you got water intrusion over a bulkhead, it's probably compromised the bulkhead as well. Here you can see multiple areas where some of the headliners have been removed to troubleshoot some of the water damage, water sources of the leaks coming into the boat. And then you can see here at the back of the stove in the galley, there's water damage there. At the top here, there's also water damage, and this is a bulkhead area. Here's another area at the top of the bulkhead in the door section where there's water damage and the wood looks a little rotted. Here above a port light, there's water damage there as well. And also this seam here looks like it's come apart, probably due to some swelling or maybe something to do with the water damage. So not good. But we didn't get that far into it. We didn't do any tap testing or anything like that. Just visually looking. Several headliner panels were removed. The wires were exposed. There's been some searching going on, troubleshooting where the leaks were at. That's kind of my take on it. But it had a nice dinette area in there for seating. Looked like several people could sit around the dinette table area there and really have a good time, maybe playing cards or having a nice meal and just relaxing, maybe watching a movie at anchor or something like that. So here you can see the dinette area in the main salon. It's got a big table, nice seating area for several people to sit around the table, eating a meal or playing cards, sitting there watching a movie or just relaxing. The main salon area is pretty open and it's well lit from all the windows in the side of the cabin top there. It's really well laid out and looks very comfortable. It was a pretty cozy boat inside. But for a 49 footer,
It's more.
his was kind of on the small side, and
What
especially
about the kitchen?
yeah, the galley area was kind of small.
Small.
Yeah, although it was a U-shaped galley, but probably really only one person's going to fit in there at a time. So, which is okay, but it's not roomy like you would expect on a 49-foot boat. I would have thought it would have been a little bit more roomy. Okay, so what was your question?
What was your dad think about it? Did he like it?
Oh.
Or what did he say?
Yeah, my dad wasn't really a fan of it. He didn't like the cockpit covering. You really have to duck down to get in and out of that, and he wasn't really a big fan of that. It didn't really bother me so much because I know that's kind of, that's a part of boating, right? Sailboats, when you're looking for boats, there's always a compromise. It's a give and take. You can't have everything on a boat this size. And so getting into the cockpit area was, you definitely had to duck down. And then here's a few pictures of the cockpit enclosure. And getting in and out of it, you do have to duck down a little bit to get in. It's a little awkward, especially if you're not accustomed to getting on and off boats very often. But once you're inside, there's adequate headroom, but it is a compact space. And, like I said, if you're not used to compact spaces like this, and then it could be a little bit uncomfortable. But for the average boater, it's about what you'd expect on a sailboat this size. You got to have a compromise. You can't have a large cockpit because then you're going to be losing space somewhere else. So it's always a give and take as far as space and creature comforts goes. Another note on the cockpit enclosure, it would be a great place to be in heavy seas. It's well protected to keep you dry and protected from all the spray and splash from waves coming over the bow or off the sides. So it's got good protection. It's just it is a small space, a little bit small for this size of boat. And then the stairs, the companionway getting into the boat was a little bit like a ladder, and he didn't like that as well. So didn't really bother. Here's a view of the companionway stairs to get into the main salon area of the boat. They're a little steep. They're not really long stairs, but they are a little bit on the steep side, so you probably going to have to go in backwards and be really careful because there's not a lot of handholds unless you're going in backwards. So I could see how these could be a little bit tricky to navigate, especially if it's in rough weather. Didn't really bother me so much. And then he just really thought the boat was small inside. And truthfully, it was it was a little bit small on the inside for what we were expecting. Here's a view of the main salon. This is probably the most open area on the boat, and you can still see that the main passageway is going to be a little tight for more than one person to walk through at a time. And then the navigation station area is also a small area, and the hallway going to the aft cabin or even up to the forward cabin is small as well. On the plus side, it has a nice little diesel stove in it, which is kind of cool. When you get in the 49, 50 foot, 51, 55 foot range, you're expecting, we're thinking it's going to be big inside. So, and this one just, wasn't as big as we were expecting, but it sure was a beautiful boat. It had a lot of, like I said, a lot of nice, beautiful woodwork inside, but there were some projects for sure. A lot of water damage, a lot of unknowns in those areas where the damage was at. Let's see what else. The price was high. Definitely the price was high. It was over 100,000 for the boat, and oftentimes they'll price them high because they're either hoping to catch somebody that gets emotionally involved in the boat right away and doesn't think about the price. We don't do that. We're not getting emotionally involved in the boats we look at. And although this is a past review, we tried to not get emotionally involved in the boats we looked at. And it happens though. Some people get caught up in these and they're like, oh, it's so cute, it's nice, it's everything we want, and they overlook the price. The price did not reflect the condition of this boat. Up on the deck, it was nice and clean. They totally redid the decks. It's got all new knot skid on it. A lot of really good work went in there. The woodwork, the bright work on the exterior of the boat looked nice. It was nice and varnished. It was in really good condition. So that was a big plus. Here you can see the front deck. The forward part of the boat has been totally redone, repaired. New non-skid on there, fresh paint. Looks like the teak is still in really good condition. The varnish is fairly well weathered, but not too bad. The bow is looking good. There's a cover over the windlass. It just looks really nice. I mean, it looks really well taken care of on the exterior. The anchor pulpit and all that looks good. So yeah, it's a pretty solid looking boat from the exterior, and somebody's taken a lot of time and energy and money to make, to restore it back to good. Personally, I like the teak decks. I like the aft section. It still had the teak on it. It looked like it would have cleaned up. The teak looked like it was still in relatively good condition for its age. I think it would have cleaned up. I think that would have, if they had cleaned that teak, it would have showed the boat a lot better. It would have been a lot more appealing to look at that instead of the green moldy teak or green mossy teak. But either way. So here we are looking at the teak decks on the aft section of the boat, and you can see they're pretty mossy and green, but that's just due to not being cleaned. Otherwise, they look like they're in pretty good shape. They probably could even, stay in service for a few more years, depending on if they leak or not. But oftentimes they end up leaking, and that's why people will replace them. But you can see the back portion of the boat's pretty well set up. They have lots of nice equipment on there, stainless fender racks, and even on the side decks where the teak is still at, it just needs to be cleaned. It looks like more than anything else, but I think that would clean up really nice and be beautiful looking again if they just put the time into it. Just, the reason why we're doing these boat reviews is we're trying to tell the story of what led up to the boat we ended up with in the end that we ended up purchasing. But a lot of these boats we're reviewing, we take away something that we like about all of them, and we also learn something we don't like about all of them as well. And like we always say, when you're shopping for a boat, it's a big compromise. You want this, you want that, you want all these things, but you can't have them all in a boat this size. And so what are you willing to compromise on? What are you willing to say, okay, it's not a deal breaker, we don't have to have this, we don't have to have that. Personally, I think having a normal bed is kind of a big plus for us, right? So this one obviously doesn't check that box. The U-shaped galley, that's a plus. Yeah, that's a check the box. The dinette area, that's a nice area. That checked the box.
But not the kitchen.
Well, that is, the galley is the kitchen. Yeah, so still. But yeah, like the aft cabin is very small. It gets small as you go towards the back. The 3 windows in the aft transom.
Good check.
Yeah, that's a check the box. We like that. Baby and I really like the windows in the transom like this. The 3 windows in the aft transom just really have that look we like. The Formosas have it, the CTs have it, this one has it as well, and it's a very attractive look. It was a Ketch rig, so we like that. That's also a plus. Here you can see the twin mast on the boat. That's telling us it's a Ketch rig boat. Personally, we have neither one of us have sailed on a Ketch rig sailboat before, but it's just a look that we are attracted to. Let's see, it had 2 heads on it, which was nice. This boat had 2 heads on it, or 2 bathrooms, however you want to call it. One of them is a wet head, where when you take a shower, everything in there gets wet. The other head had a stall shower as well, and was a little bit bigger, a lot nicer laid out. But yeah, the wet heads don't do it for us. Everything gets soaked. It had a nice, open, fairly roomy engine room on it, which looked really nice. Here you can see the engine room. It's pretty well laid out, and there's pretty good access to working on the engine if you needed to. It even has a little workshop in there with a vise and some storage for some spare parts. And then it has also a nice control panel. It's pretty well laid out. It's dated, but still looks functional, and something you could use in the meantime until you wanted to upgrade. We didn't run the engine. We didn't check any of the systems. We didn't see what powers up, what doesn't power up, or anything like that. But it's a worthy project. It was a very nice boat. We just want something with a little bit more room in it, and this one just didn't quite have it. It checked a lot of the boxes, but with all the water damage, that's a big unknown, and the price did not reflect the concerns about the water damage. So, we could have compromised on some of the things, but just wasn't really what we were looking for to go back and start trying to bargain on the price. So it was another one of those. We walked away, and we continued at this point where we were at. We continued the search. What do you think? Did you like the pictures? Did you like what you saw?
Well, it's hard to tell just by the pictures. It's different when you really look at it in person. So
yeah,
I don't know.
But you could kind of tell that it just wasn't that roomy inside. I mean, especially when you're at the dinette or in the galley, and you can look across the boat and you see that there's just enough room really to walk down the center, and you know, if two people are trying to pass by, you're having to squeeze by each other pretty tight, and I just feel like it should be more roomy on a boat this size inside, but that's just me. And my dad, you know, he kept giving me a hard time. Well, it's 49 feet. Why don't you go for 50? It's 1 foot short.
Right. So,
you know, we would have heard that the whole time. But either way, it's a nice boat. It's great for somebody that's looking for something that size. It has a lot of really nice things all packed into a compact size 49 foot boat. It's definitely an ocean crossing vessel. It'll get you to where you want to go. I like the door aids, the vents up on the deck. I really like those. But yeah, I mean, it's an attractive boat. It has a lot of freeboard, so it's high on the sides, which is nice. And you know, it looks like it's ready to cross the ocean. So it's just not what we're really looking for. So we moved on. And yeah, eventually we get to the one we're looking for. So until then, we'll continue reviewing the boats and talking about the ones we looked at to get to where we ultimately ended up with the one we have today. And until then,
see you
next time. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and tune in for more next time. We'll continue talking about the boats until we get to the one that we ended up with, and then we'll go over everything that we liked and didn't like about that one. Right?
I think I like everything.
Okay, that's cool. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tune in for next time. And comment if you like it. Comment. If you didn't like it, comment. Tell us what you didn't like, and we'll try and do better next time.
Yeah.
All right?
So comment.
Yeah, either way, comment. We like to hear your feedback. Until then, we will see you next time. Bye.
And what's that?
My idea. Oh, we got a boat coming. It's this guy. Nice. Dang. 5 engines on the back. That was sweet.
Welcome back to another edition of DIY Nautical Trip. Hang on 1 second. Is it edition or episode?
Episode.
Okay. So this episode we will talk about the Trans-Pacific boat 1980. And when he went, look at this boat.
How big? How big? How big?
How big is it?
Yeah.
49.
Oh, okay.
Trans-Pacific 49.
All right. Good.
Let's do it.
It's part of it's good.
Let's do it.
Okay, go ahead.